And but you did to the Miriam Makunda Show.
Why we gotta fight? Cause really we just one tribe. Now let's just unite like our families at dinner time. Let's cherish all our elders.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Mari Mukunda Show on Salam Media with your host, Mari Mukunda. It is 11 minutes after 12 on this Wednesday, 13th of January 2021. Anxiety is never a pleasant feeling. Between the stress and time commitments around the holidays and the added pressure to have the best year ever, to have the year ahead planned and to make it our best year ever. It's no wonder that so many of us feel so anxious and overwhelmed when thinking about the year ahead. You know, when you see people and their hashtags New Year, New Me, and you're just sitting there wondering to yourself, why don't you have a New Year, New Me? Or you're sitting there thinking, will I have a New Year, New Me? There's so much that I still want to do. There's so much that I still need to do. I have to apply for school. I have to apply for bursary. I have to apply for a job. I have to excel at the job that I already have. I have to do this. There's just so much to do. And it brings about an overwhelming feeling. And you end up getting burnout before you even started. Joining me is Shuhaida Adams, who is a counselor at Islamic, and we're going to be talking about coping with the New Year anxiety, especially during this pandemic. Assalamu alaikum, Shuhaida.
Wa alaikum salam, Sister Mariam. How are you this year?
Alhamdulillah, all good in yourself?
Alhamdulillah, Islamic line is open and we are ready for our clients to rejoin us. So we're looking forward to a fruitful year, inshallah.
Ameen, alhamdulillah. All right, so why does the New Year bring about anxiety?
Okay, so your introduction, as you touched on that quite a bit on in terms of what we're hoping to achieve for the year. And there's just oftentimes there's a feeling of being so overwhelmed. As you said, there's so much to do. You use the example perhaps of students, but I know for many other people in many other areas of their lives, for example, business, people who are starting the year with so much financial responsibility, so much work responsibilities. Many people in the beginning of the year, a lot of companies are working already towards their financial year end, which brings about a lot of stress. There's in work situations where many people have not returned, either due to illness or unfortunately with COVID, they've passed on. So there's just that stress of, managing the work environment. On a personal front, people, in terms of their social circumstances, things have perhaps changed. There's new requirements. People have gotten married. People want to get married. People have given birth. I'm not sure in certain communities, there's been a bumper December for babies. So there's a lot of stress around planning around that. There's a lot to plan, like you said. It's, the new year, it's almost like you could say water has washed through and sort of washed away the old year. And now we're left with something new and something that we have to build towards. With 2021, there's, of course, the added uncertainty of what's happening with our COVID approach. So parents who have children in school, I do see that people are preparing for back to school without really knowing if the children are actually going back to school. So there's two different approaches you have to prepare for when children are physically going back, or are they going to be doing online? So there's a lot of uncertainty around that. Even just in terms of health and wellness, many people have had to perhaps make cuts to their lifestyle because of the impact of the lockdowns from last year has impacted them financially, has impacted their earnings, has impacted perhaps even their home businesses, how they have to run their businesses, etc. So they've had to do a lot of cutbacks, and this may have actually impacted on their health and wellness. So many people didn't take a holiday in December, which some people really need to recover from a difficult year. They were not able to take that. They were not able to engage in their usual social and recreational activities. They were not able to engage with their families and reconnect to the social bonds. I know in many families, the December year is when the families get together, the December holiday, and the children spend time with their cousins, and it's time to meet new family members. So many people were not able to enjoy the benefits that come from that, of course, because of the current situation. So yes, the new year can start on a very difficult note, but through the show, I'm really hoping that we can change that and that people can realize also that throughout all of this uncertainty and the difficulty, and many people are experiencing grief through the loss of family members or through the loss of community members and colleagues. But throughout that, I'm hoping that through this, we can sort of try and just work away towards having a year, working towards a year that will be of benefit, and that will help people to be, even with all this uncertainty, there will be a sort of source of calmness and centeredness and groundedness that people can utilize to take things through the year.
Okay, Shuhaida, we need to take a break, but before you go, I'd like to know, is it normal to feel a sense of dread, loneliness, and sadness when the new year begins? Hold that thought, and we will discuss when we return.
As winter grips the Northern Hemisphere, refugees, IDPs, and other vulnerable communities are doing all they can to survive. Winter is already the hardest time of year, and in the current global context, this year could be even worse. With your help, the Al Imdad Foundation is delivering life-saving winter warmth items in 12 countries globally, including Syria, Palestine, Yemen, Kashmir, and Pakistan. So be warm-hearted and sponsor a winter pack at just 600 Rand. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
This is Salam Media, and you are tuned into the Miriam Makunda Show.
Welcome back. It is 19 minutes past 12. You are listening to the Miriam Makunda Show on Salam Media on this Wednesday, the 13th of January, 2021. I am chatting to Islamic Careline Counselor Shuhaida Adams about coping with the New Year anxiety, especially during this pandemic. And we are in the second wave right now, and we had to move back to alert level 3 of the lockdown. So we are very, very uncertain about what to expect next. Some of us are still working from home. Some of us have returned to work. And as Shuhaida mentioned earlier, parents are preparing for school, but are not sure whether their children will go back to school this year. Shuhaida, shukran for staying on the line. And before the break, I wanted to know if it's normal to feel a sense of dread, a sense of sadness, a sense of loneliness when the new year begins.
Apparently, it's quite common. I've read a study that was done in the UK, and about over half the respondents have found that New Year's is one of the most depressing days that they experience. So people do tend to find it difficult to get through it. Anytime that there's an opportunity for reflection, and that could lead to feelings of being down and feeling demotivated. And New Year's is a time when many people across, personally, across the media, across wherever we're exposed to, it's a time that people reflect on the year that was. People reflect on what they would like to achieve, what have they achieved. And so it's time, reflective time can go both ways. It can go negative or it can go positive. And when people sort of reflect on what they haven't managed to achieve, or they look at what losses they've experienced, people who tend to compare themselves to others also, when they compare who has achieved what to people around them are doing like this and that and that, and they find that they don't measure themselves up to other people's standards, it can lead to a difficult sense of insecurity, a feeling of inadequacy as well. So around this time, yes, people do experience that. In terms of the loneliness also, we found that the entire holiday season, holiday period, that it's a really difficult time for many people. Our elderly people also find themselves without their close friends or without their family. And even pre-COVID, the holiday time was always difficult for people like the elderly, don't have that much support, or people who are forced to work, not necessarily forced, but people who are required to work over the holiday period. They don't get to experience that same time of family togetherness or social or travel or anything like that. It can be quite difficult. So the new year can extend that. People tend to realize also that if that's how my holiday was, it seems like the rest of the year will also follow that way. I'm still going to experience that darkness, that difficulty. So it can really be a difficult time. On the other hand, then you have people who do approach it with a sense of optimism, people who have the correct support, and they can really get through this on a brighter note.
Mm-hmm. And we always have people making resolutions about the new year, new me. Like you mentioned, there are some people who are optimistic about the events of the new year. So, what should we do to better cope with the anxiety of the new year? Some of us, we do tend to feel overwhelmed, and we don't have a clear head. We're not sure of where to even start with the planning process. When do we even reflect on the year that was? I'm sure there are people sitting at home listening or watching, and they haven't even reflected on the year that was and are still unsure of where to start.
Okay, so I always say set New Year's resolutions at your own peril. It's a difficult one when you talk about specific resolutions, because the idea behind a resolution is that it's a goal that you want to achieve. And if you don't really stick to it in the beginning, people then tend to just let it slide and let it go and not carry on or not work around it. So we're adopting an approach this year of not talking really about resolutions, but what attitude can you adopt? And that will take you through. Like you said, people can be overwhelmed. There's so much that we think about for this year that I want to achieve. I want to do this. I want to go here. I want to tick off things on my bucket list, etc. Right? And like you said, it can be overwhelming. So it's a good idea to have a plan in place. What I would recommend, your first step always, is to reflect. Now, I know we spoke a little bit earlier about reflection can be quite difficult, but it's important to know where you are right now, to look at what are your current circumstances. I know many people are facing uncertainty. They haven't even really dealt with the grief that they've experienced over the losses that they've experienced last year. There's a lot of fear still about this year. When we're hearing about the new strain, etc., and there's so much fear that people don't really want to do anything. We're just sitting tight in a way, and we're just waiting to see, and we're kind of waiting, and we don't really even know what we're waiting for, right? So I would like people to rather first reflect a bit and look at what was impacted. Look at what was impacted in terms of your social life, in terms of family, in terms of finance, or all areas of your life. It's important to just look at where you are right now. Reflect on where you are, reflect on what you currently have, and then look at what attitude would you like to adopt. So attitudes carry you through many things. Attitudes carry you through success. Attitudes carry you through so much setbacks. And we know that setbacks are a part of anything you engage in. If you're starting a business, there will be setbacks. If you're starting a hobby, you're starting a new relationship, etc., there will be setbacks. And it's attitudes and it's the correct support that will carry you through it. So decide what type of thoughts, what types of feelings would you like to adopt that will carry you through these setbacks, right? So a sense of resilience, an attitude of, yes, something has failed and I'm going to get through it. I'm going to make another plan. It's important this year, especially now going forward, to have flexibility, to be able to be flexible through whatever comes our way. I mean, there's times when travel might suddenly be restricted overnight, or certain things get banned overnight. We can't, before we haven't planned any alternative plans, but we need to be flexible around that. So an attitude of flexibility, I think, is one of the key things that people have had to really adapt since this COVID pandemic has started. So it's important to develop that, right? With so much uncertainty, I want you to rather focus on what are some of the things that are within your control. What are some of the things that you can work on? So, looking at things like, how can I eradicate the pandemic? It's a bit out there. What can you work with? So if, for example, you're not certain about whether your children are going back to school this year, right? Or whether they're going to be doing online or not, what can you work with at the moment? So look at what tools that you have, what can you sit with your children, or what can you get them to do just to help aid their learning in a way until they know what's going on. Then I want you to look at what are your practical requirements for this year. So, for example, do you know for certain you're going to be working from home? What do you need to make that experience more easier? For example, you need practical equipment like upgrading your laptop, or something as small as whether your mouse is not really working properly. Maybe you need something along those lines. What are your practical requirements? Even in terms of your health and your wellness. So if you know that you've been using a certain multivitamin, for example, and you know that you always want that supply and it costs a certain amount, so you know that you need to budget for it. So just plan around the practicality of what would you require for this year. If you want to, for example, look at your weight and you have a goal to lose weight, what's going to be the practicality around that and how can you work around that, right? And again, when you're looking at what you practically require for this year, also trying to be flexible. If plan A doesn't work, if your idea is, so for example, the multivitamin, if your brand is not available, do you have an alternative, so to say, right? So look at being flexible around your practical requirements. Then, in terms of your own development and for your own wellness, what areas of your life would you like to grow? Look at, for example, spirituality. How would you like to become closer to your creator? Where are you right now in terms of your spirituality? Do you find that you maybe you work more on habit, or are you more introspective? Where would you like to go with this, right? So look at your areas of spirituality, learning and development. That's so key to anyone. You don't need to be in a formal working environment. You don't need to be in a formal academic environment to focus on learning and development. If that's something you want to work on, how can you go about it? There's so much online programs available. Many people are offering courses online, and it's not necessarily formalized, so you don't need to really write exams. Some people are a bit cautious about that. They don't feel that they can complete assessments. So looking at that, and find something that suits you there. But the idea is, if you have an area of your life that you would like to grow, look at how can you find something that will work for you. What courses are available? What's your budget? What can you afford? If you need to also look at finance, whether you need to improve your finance. Did you take a knock last year? If you're running a business, if you're running a home business, how did it impact on you last year? The hard lockdowns, and now we're in level 3, so we could go either way. We're not certain. So trying to sort of work practically around that. And sometimes it's as simple as taking a pen and a paper and really just writing down all your thoughts on your mind, writing down all these ideas that you have, how you can work around whatever setbacks you have, writing it down, and then sort of examining each idea that you have and saying, okay, the merits of this idea, I don't think it would really work. Let me scratch that off. And you literally take a pen and you scratch through it, and it can provide clarity. It can provide you a little bit of guidance in which areas you would like to focus on. Mm-hmm. And then one thing I'm going to mention again is, how can you support your mental health and wellness? It needs to be part of your plan for this year. It needs to be part of your goal. a little bit of focus on health and wellness. Now, towards the end of last year, Sister Mariam, we did a program on self-care. And I said the holidays is the perfect time to focus on self-care. Now that the holidays are over, how are you going to carry on with that self-care? If you did something, for example, maybe you started a new hobby, or you went to access a service that made you feel more calming, relaxing, for example, you started massaging or something like that, right? How can you carry it on for this year? The reason why I'm stressing is that you cannot neglect your mental health and wellness. And this goes for individuals and for families. So parents, how are you going to help your children with their health and with their mental health and wellness, right? So what will you do to support them? What will you do to help them understand what's going on? What are they experiencing? Children may feel anxiety, they may feel fear, but they don't have the capacity to be able to label it as such. And when they don't know what they're experiencing, it can lead to a lot of difficult behavior. So helping them understand what they are going through, why are they feeling this way? Last year, we had many children who they had adaptive issues when returning to school. And for so many children, I found that it was because going back to school, they were alternating their days. So children, they didn't have their friends with them on the same days. They were not able to socialize accordingly. They couldn't really engage with their friends. So they kind of lost interest really in being in school. And then the work itself it just lost meaning for these children because they didn't have friends around them, and the social component of being in school was taken away. So it led to a lot of adaptive issues. And so helping children understand and helping children try to realize this is how it's going to be. So if, for example, my friend is not here today, my friend is in a different group, how can I work around that as a child, right? So without placing too much pressure on children, because we have to understand also growing up in a pandemic, it's really difficult for children. With the correct support, yes, they can come through it. And I find our children of this generation are very resilient also. It's amazing how they can come through it, and their way of explaining things to themselves also, it can really amaze you as a parent. So without taking away from their resilience, be there for children just to help support them through what they're going to be going through. And then an important thing also is, how do you plan to add value? And you can decide where would you like to add value. Value to your own life, value to engaging with others, value to your community, value to your families. So it's so important to have a sense of fulfillment. And you'll find that whatever I've spoken about now, all these things sort of tie together, right? Having a sense of value gives you a sense of purpose. Having a sense of purpose allows you to connect with other people. So even though we physically have to stay distant, you can still connect with other people vocally, online, etc. Once you can connect with other people, it then makes that dread and that loneliness that you feel, that will also dissipate a bit. So it's so critical to decide on where would you like to add value and how would you like to go about it. Community volunteerism, donating things, even just providing support for others. So there's forums that you can go online and people tend to vent for different topics. So even if it's something relating to health, for example, people are suffering from diabetes. And if there's a forum online where people get to vent about how difficult it is or how they struggling to come to terms with it, if you go online and you just provide supportive comments also, it can lead to engagement and it can lead to a sense of fulfillment when people also tend to thank you for helping them. It's amazing what a kind word or just a word of support. You don't need to be you don't need a lot of professional knowledge to offer support and empathy to somebody, and that can then help tie in with that. We're not really able to engage, or we're not really able to, we're worried about the loneliness and the fear that we may feel through the year. So I think it's quite important, starting with reflecting and ending of where are we going to add value and how are we going to add value in this year.
Shuhaida, you have said quite a lot there, and unfortunately time is not on our side, but quickly share with us the contact details of Islamic Care Line.
Okay, so you can contact us on the landline 011 373 8080, our cell phone 078 727 1334. And once you make contact with us from there, we'll take it from there.
All right. Shukran so much and have a wonderful day ahead. Assalamu alaikum.
عفوا likewise. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
That was Shuhaida Adam, a counselor at Islamic Care Line. And as she mentioned, we are living in an era of online information, online technology, etc. So let's all jump on the ship and sail with it, or prepare to get left behind. And as the saying goes, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. So and plan and yeah, you know what? I always get distracted with that sound in the background. But, anyways, plan and reflect on the year that was and the year that will be. So, it's very important to do that. And the plan starts when you are ready. You can start today, you can start tomorrow, you can start the day after tomorrow. But whenever you are ready, start with reflecting and plan your year ahead. And the first thing that Allah created was the pen. So write things down, write your goals, your dreams, whatever it is that you want to write. Look at what you've done and what you hope to achieve. Scratch things out, add things onto that, and basically just have some plan, a vision going forward. It is at 12:37. We will be right back after the break.